This work enabled the CP to counteract fascist propaganda, which blamed the lack of decent, affordable housing not on slum landlords or government, but on immigrants, and especially Jews.
But Oswald Mosley and his British Union of Fascists also had to be challenged on the streets. Communist strategy was to bring working class organisations together in a united front at the core of a broader People's Front of all anti-fascist forces. Communists disrupted fascist rallies and mobilised working class and Jewish communities against the admirers of Hitler and Mussolini. Together with left-wing allies, they inflicted a decisive defeat on the Black Shirts here in Cable Street, East London, in October 1936.
That same year, General Franco launched a military rebellion backed by the fascist powers against the democratically elected government of Spain.
I took a delegation of trade unionists to Concrete House to meet Sir Walter Citrine, who was then the secretary of the TUC. And the only arguments that he put forward, and we never made an inch out of him, we never got a thing out of him, and of course his policy was also supported by Bevan. Ernest Bevan was a great supporter of non-intervention, was it was none of our business. You know, that we had our problems here in this country and we ought to stick to them. And when you talked about Hitler and Mussolini making the Spanish Civil War the testing ground for the war that was to come, they just wouldn't accept it.
While the Labour and TUC leaderships tried to stay neutral, the Communist Party organised a broad mass movement in solidarity with the Spanish people. And the Communist International recruited brigades from around the world to defend the Spanish Republic in arms.
2,200 volunteers went from Britain to Spain. Most of them working class, many of them unemployed. 500 died there. The Franco dictatorship went on to butcher communists, socialists, Democrats, and Basque patriots. Sections of the British ruling class sympathised with the Nazis and Mussolini. They wanted to turn Hitler's forces east, towards the Soviet Union, and away from the British Empire. The Daily Worker and Claude Coburn's Bulletin, The Week, exposed the top financiers, industrialists, government ministers, military chiefs, and newspaper editors who plotted at the Cliveden mansion of Lord and Lady Astor. The newly elected Communist MP for West Fife, Willie Gallagher, spoke out against Tory appeasement and Labour indecision.
Yesterday afternoon, I had a long talk with Herr Hitler. It was a frank talk, but it was a friendly one. All right. Yeah.
Although the Chamberlain government reluctantly declared war on Hitler in 1939, what followed was a period of phony war with no offensive action against Nazi Germany. The cabinet refused to bomb German arms factories because they were private property. Bunkers were built for top bureaucrats, business leaders and politicians, while working class people were left defenseless. The Communist Party campaigned for proper air raid precautions, especially deep underground shelters for the general public. Meanwhile, the rich fled in their thousands across the Atlantic to safety. In September 1940, Phil Piratin, Ted Bramley, and other communist community leaders led mass invasions of the Mayfair and Savoy hotel shelters. They broke into underground stations, leading thousands of people to safety and forcing the government to open them every night. Above ground, the party and its allies convened a huge people's convention in January 1941. 2,000 labour movement delegates demanded a people's government to secure a people's peace, nationalisation, democratic and trade union rights, an end to profiteering, friendship with the Soviet Union, and freedom for Britain's colonies. 1 week later, the Tory Labour War Cabinet decided not to outlaw the Communist Party. It banned the Daily Worker and the Week instead.
But the whole character of the war was changing. In June 1941, the fascist powers attacked the Soviet Union. And with the Nazis occupying much of Western and Central Europe, communists emerged at the head of popular resistance movements. In such a people's war against fascism, Britain's Communist Party now threw itself into the fight for production.
The working class of Britain are made of the same metal as their Russian comrades and only yearn for the opportunity to prove it in deeds. Not one of us has the right to cheer when a second front is called for unless we are prepared to face all the obstacles that are at present impeding production in the shipyards, the mines and the factories.
Although the party continued to argue for higher pay and for the unionisation of women workers, its aim was to settle disputes as quickly as possible. As the Soviet people resisted the Nazi invaders with superhuman courage, the Communist Party joined an Iron Bevan and other Labour left-wingers to demand a second front.
Britain and the USA should launch an invasion in Western Europe, as the Red Army fought 4/5 of the German war machine in the east.
He kicked that noble Russian, but it wasn't very long before Adolf got suspicious that he had done something wrong. Cause that bear grabbed the Fuhrer and gave him an awful fight. 17 months he scrapped the Fuhrer tooth and claw day and night. Then that bear smacked the Fuhrer with a mighty armoured paw, and Adolf broke all records running backwards to Krakow. Then Goebbels sent a message to the people everywhere that if they couldn't hit the Fuhrer, God don't hit that Russian bear. Stalin wasn't stalling when he told the beast of Berlin that they'd never rest contented till they had driven him from the land. So he called the Yanks and English and proceeded to extinguish the Fuhrer and his vermin. This is how it all began.
Churchill broke solemn pledges to Soviet leader Stalin before D-Day finally arrived in June 1944. Thrilled by the stunning victories of the Soviet Red Army, thousands of people in Britain joined the Communist Party. As the war drew to a close, the party called for a Labour-led coalition to win the peace. before switching to support an outright Labour victory in the 1945 general election.
The working class, especially in the armed forces, voted for a new society based on public ownership of key industries, economic planning, full employment, progressive taxation, and a welfare state from cradle to grave, including a national health service. They swept Churchill aside, electing another communist MP, Phil Piratin, in Mile End to join Willie Gallagher in the House of Commons. In local elections soon after, 215 communist councillors were elected across Britain.